First thing this morning, we headed out to see the castle. Well, we got to the castle that's inside the city walls and found that it was closed for the day. They were having some special thing, so this is all we saw. I did notice the tops of the walls here, and this is called a hoarding. It was a temporary wooden shed-like construction on the exterior of the ramparts of the castle during a siege to allow the defenders to improve their field of fire. Well, since we couldn't visit the castle, we decided to get some breakfast. Not many places were open, even though it was 11 o'clock. We had croissants and coffee for breakfast inside. It was cold outside. This nearby cross was interesting. It faces the city walls, but I couldn't find out what was once there. But walking to the walls, I can see the main entrance to the city and the cemetery just across the moat. Here you can see the inner city wall and a road next to it, and then the city itself. I headed down this street, didn't know what I would find, and as I got down here, I found myself out between the two walls. The oldest parts of the walls go back to the Roman period, but in the 13th century, the kings of France decided to modernize and enlarge the walls that make it what it is today. I found that a barbican is a fortified outpost or gateway, such as an outer defense of a city or castle. So, in the medieval times, I assume there was some sort of a building using this circular area for defense. Today, there's a view out on the modern city of Carcassonne. Here we're walking along the front side of the castle, and all of these extra walls are for defensive measures. Now we're back inside the medieval city. That's our hotel on the right. Now we're going to go into the church. Probably a church was built here in the 6th century, but in 1096 they began building a new cathedral. It was completed first half of the 12th century. Then at the end of the 13th century, they remodeled it in the Gothic style. Beautiful stained glass windows. The central stained glass window is from 1280 and is one of the oldest in the south of France. Together with the upper trefoils, it depicts the life of Jesus in 16 medallions. These three gentlemen were singing a cappella wonderfully, and then they do have tapes for sale. This tower was built here to protect the church. Today it's used as one of the main ways to get into this town. You drive up this steep ramp, enter the tower, make a 90-degree turn, Then make another 90-degree turn and you come out inside the city. Not very large opening, is it? The oldest parts of the city walls date back to the Roman period, but it's in the 13th century that the kings of France decided to modernize and enlarge the walls that make the fortified city what it is today. There's two walls which make the city particularly difficult to invade. If the enemy managed to get through the first wall, they'd still have to go through the second wall while being in the open area between where they would be attacked, of course. On the left side of this picture is part of the original Roman wall that's still there today. I learned that Napoleon demilitarized Carcassonne, and that evidently led to disrepair and a threat of demolition in 1849. However, in 1853, Napoleon III approved and provided funds for a restoration of the city. The main entrance to the city today is the Porte Narbonnaise. It's a complex structure combining various military devices. It dates from the end of the 13th century. By entering this eastern door, one first crosses the Barbican St. Louis, providing advanced protection of the interior gate. This is a bust of Dame Carcassonne. Legend says that Charlemagne was besieging the city. The king was killed and his wife, Dame Carcassonne, took command. After the siege had lasted 5 years, food was scarce and there remained only one pig and a sack of wheat. Dame Carcassonne had the pig stuffed with the wheat and then threw it over the wall. Charlemagne, believing that the city still had lots of provisions, abandoned the siege and left. To commemorate its 20 years as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, a Swiss artist created these concentric yellow circles, which are made out of aluminum and were attached to the castle walls. They were removed later in the fall after we left. Well, here's how they made a Moscow mule in Carcassonne. Pretty fancy copper mug for the Moscow mule, and Stu's really enjoying it. This restaurant was also very close to our hotel, had a lot of local ingredients, but as you can see, the inside is quite tiny. I had a cassoulet. It was okay, but I had a better one in Sarlat. Back to the hotel after dinner and then going out on our back patio, we had this night view of the castle. Pretty cool.